Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Between Friends. I'm Ashley Jones, and I am your host today for this really fun presentation. So I'm filling in for Eileen. She is out today, but you guys will see her back next week. So I want to get right to the fun. And so I want to make sure that you know we've got a very special project today that I think you guys are going to love if you've seen the our image for this particular presentation. And this particular Between Friends is a collaboration with Reen Wilcoxson of Embroidery Garden. So I would love it if Reen would join me on the screen. Hey, Reen, how are you?
Good. How are you, Ashley?
Good. So good to see you. And I'm excited about this project that we're going to be talking about. So I know that you've been stitching for the holiday season already. And
Yeah.
so tell us a little bit about what's going on at Embroidery Garden.
Well, I have been stitching for the holidays already, trying to get some new designs out. I've got a couple of in-person events coming up. So I haven't done any of those in a while. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And, just keep it on, getting everything done.
Yeah, I'm sure. And you are always one busy person. And so I was just going to say hi to some of our friends that I know that you also know. We got lots of people joining. And so hi to Retha Ranke. So glad to see you here. And Retha says she's hello from Wyoming. And she said she's finally here. I went back to work for a month. Ugh, work. That doesn't sound fun, right? I'm glad I get to work and play at the same time, Reen. What about you?
Oh, me too. My work is fun.
Yes, I know. We're kind of spoiled. So, Patricia Roberts, thank you for joining. Lots of familiar names. Chris Kavanaugh, thanks for being here. Our friend Dawn from Creative Applique, thanks for being here, Dawn. Roy Garland, you know Roy, right?
Oh, yeah.
And
Hi, Roy.
so we wouldn't be doing some of the stuff we're talking about today without Roy for sure. So, and Harriet Ann Palmer, thanks for being here. Marjorie Hirschberger, thanks for being here and joining. So, the Las Vegas Sew Girl happens to be one of our educators here at Dime. Thanks for joining, Lisa. And my friend Bet, thanks for being here as well. So lots of people that are excited, I bet, to see this project. So Caroline also, thanks for being here, Caroline. Good to see her always as well. So Reen, this project that we're talking about today is really something that you had sent a picture and what you were working on, and I was so excited about it. I thought, that just needs to be shared with everybody we know. And so what better way to do that on a Facebook Live? So today we are going to channel your spooky soft side, and Reen has created this beautiful project here using a combination of Cuddle fabric from Shannon Fabrics and our Dime Special FX software. So we're going to see that being quilted. You're using it for really kind of an applique process. We're going to slice it up too to make it even fuzzier. And then that's all done with their embroidery machine, right, Reen? You want to tell them a little bit more about this?
Yeah, it is done with the embroidery machine. It is a chenille effect. And I kind of decided to use Cuddle to try it out at least. And I loved the effect that I got when I stitched out the blocks. It's so soft. It's so textural.
Yeah.
and it worked perfectly. I was kind of doubtful that it would work because Cuddle is a minky.
Yep.
It's polyester. It's a knit. It has stretch. It has nap. It has pile. But as you can see in those pictures, it just turned out beautiful.
Yeah, it absolutely did. And I do agree, whenever you and I were chatting back and forth, we talked about the chenille technique. And when we say chenille or faux chenille, if you're not familiar with that, I'm going to show the steps of it too while we're here today. But it's a process that you stitch channels in several layers of fabric, and then you cut between the channels to make, slices in the fabric. And then the fabric frays. And when you wash it, or either you scrub it with a brush, and it gets softer because the fuzzy raw edges just almost like bloom, right, Reen? They just kind of
Right.
grow and fill in and get fuzzy with
Cuddle,
what we
though, is a
call
little
faux
bit
chenille.
different, though, because
Right,
it doesn't fray. But I
right,
think it's the pile, the height of it that gives it the look that it gives it.
right.
Because it's not fraying. You will get a
Yep,
little bit of Cuddle dust when you cut it, but it's not like fabric, which is woven and it
right.
frays. But I'm so glad I tried it because I just
It's
absolutely
pretty.
love the look.
I know, and we also said, we don't necessarily want to refer to it as chenille, even though it's the chenille technique, because chenille, it does kind of bloom and get really soft, whereas really Cuddle is already extremely soft,
Right.
and stitching these channels and then cutting them, it just gives a completely different texture to the fabric, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm going to show you some things here, and you're really going to see that texture and that. I don't even know how to describe that look, that dimension and everything.
Right.
It's like right there is a perfect example.
Yeah, for sure. And so this, the ghost, I actually have got we're going to see that one stitch out. And so I stitched that one here and made sure I did the steps for that. But the solid block, Reen, so tell us a little bit about that.
So the solid block, and I've got one laying here somewhere. Here is one. So it's just done in channels, like Ashley said. So the block is solid, meaning there is no graphic on this. There's no Halloween design on this. And a placement is put down. You put your Cuddle down, 2 more layers of Cuddle, and then you can see the channels on the back side. The machine, will stitch the channels as you program them in. And again, I use Dime Special Effects software to do this. And then you're just going to cut the channels and, finish the block off. Ashley's going to show you that. But here you can kind of see the dimension and,
Beautiful.
how it looks. It is. It's just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. I love it. Chenille, for one, this technique is really fun and can add, really some texture to whatever you put it on anyway. But this is just like an elevated, way of doing it. And we don't think of, like we said, we always do chenille with woven fabric so that it will bloom and fray. But with Cuddle, like you said, it's really a knit because it's the knit that's on the back of the pile, right,
Right.
Reen? Yeah. So you don't think of that as using this technique, but boy, did it turn out so adorable.
I think
So, Reen,
it's not that it blooms, but it kind of waves, and that's what I think gives it that just really, really cool effect.
yeah, for sure. So, well, Reen, do you want to hold that up and then
Yes, I'm gonna
talk us
stand
talk us
up.
through?
So here's the quilt.
We'll make you big.
Okay.
There we
I'll
go.
back up a little bit to try and get in as much as I can, and I'm gonna lift it up. The colors show up so much better being using my front camera than it does the other camera. Let's see, we got just all kinds of little graphics. All of it, basically came out of Dime software.
Love.
And see what I'm talking about with just this dimension that it gives. It is just really cool. You can use lettering. Ashley's going to show you, all about it, but it's just gorgeous. It's
Yeah.
absolutely gorgeous. I'm so happy with the way that it turned out.
Yeah. It is beautiful, Rain. And like you said, so soft, you know,
Oh,
too.
yes,
And
it's
yeah.
definitely soft.
Yeah, I love that. It's just a really cool, unique way of doing chenille with your embroidery machine and just getting a different look. So I love that. So first thing we need is a design, right? So we need to know where the design comes from. And so I will show how to create one of these blocks. If you've got our special FX software, I'll show you how you can create it in that software because that's the easiest. I did see that someone asked if they could create it in another software. Really, what you need, and when I get over to the software, is you need channels to stitch. And so if you have like our Perfect Embroidery Pro or another program that create a run stitch line and you just create a bunch of lines to fill a shape, you certainly could manually do it. But the nice thing about our Special FX software is it's you know, a one click for this, and so it makes it really easy. So I'll head over and
Super
show them
easy.
that, Reen, in the how the designs were created, and then we'll go through the process of how they actually stitch out chenilles. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
All right. So, okay. So I'm in my special FX embroidery software. So as you guys know, Dime has tons of different software programs. And the special FX has a set of unique embroidery types or techniques that are like one click wonders. That's what I call them. So you've got, you know, the ability to create fringe, plaid, mylar designs, embossed designs, foam designs, 3D foam, and then those chenille designs. So let's see exactly how this works. I'm going to start with the easiest one. So let's just go with the square block. So I'm going to choose my artwork shape, and then I'm going to draw a rectangle, and then I'll select it, and then I'm going to make it the size. So Reen, her blocks were 9 inches finished, right, Reen?
Right.
Okay. So 9 inch finished, and that's perfect because then it's going to fit in your 9.5 by 9.5 hoop. So I set my square to 9 by 9. And now I'm not kidding, guys. It is this easy. So if you just click on this button right here, and then I'm going to leave all the settings, the default, so you can see how easy it is. And when I click OK, it just does all the work for me. So if we watch this stitch out, this is how you stitch a chenille when you're at the embroidery machine. And I do have a video where you'll see this. So just the chenille part by itself, you're going to get a placement stitch so that you can put down a piece of base fabric. That is the bottom fabric that you'll see through all of your cut layers. And then it'll tack that down with another run stitch. And then it's going to stitch these channels. The channels are what you're going to cut in between. You will either run a pair of scissors or a chenille slash cutter, your seam ripper through there, and cut those layers up. And then after you cut them, the last thing that stitches, I'm going to back up here. The last thing that stitches is another run stitch all the way around the edge. So before you stitch that run stitch, you want to cut your channels, because once you stitch that last run stitch, it's going to seal up the edges. And then that's when you'll trim away all the excess fabric. So it's really that simple to make a chenille design. Now let's do it with a fun little shape and not just a square. So I'm going to open up a new workspace here. I'm going to go into the frames and then choose that ghost shape that Reen used. And I'm going to make that, if we're working with a 9-inch block, we can make the this a 7-inch, I think is what you said you did, Reen. And I'm going to do maintain aspect ratio here and click apply, and it didn't keep it. So I'm going to do that again. There we go. And so 7-inch ghost here. And to make this a chenille ghost, we just click. And now this time I'm going to talk about these options. So I just chose the straight lines on the block, but you can also have lines that are a wave. You can set the distance here. And this is one thing that if you're using flannel or your regular quilting cotton, I usually match the spacing to the size of the cutter guide that I'm going to use, and I'll show that. But Reen, tell me, because you used Cuddle, you said you felt like it was better to give a little bit more space here because of the loft of the Cuddle, right?
Right. And on some of the graphics that I use, some of the artwork out of the software that I used, you know, once you apply it, you can kind of see if there are like really small areas or you know, you can kind of judge whether the channel you feel needs to be a little bit wider, a little bit smaller. It kind of depends upon the artwork too.
Yeah, for sure. Because this little arm, I know you did a little bit of adjusting on yours because of this little shape right over here. But that at that distance actually looks, you know, pretty good. And that 0.39, if I remember correctly, was roughly about an 8 or so millimeter distance between here. But now I've got this ghost shape that does the same thing. It's going to give me my placement, my tack down for that base layer, which you guys will learn more about in a minute. Then the channels, you'll slice those open, and then you'll get that finishing stitch around the edge. So let me show you how Reen fit this into the block, and then made the block around it, and then we'll talk about more details about the chenille. So I know also, Reen, you put a little face on your ghost, and so I'm actually going to go back into those shapes here because I saw a little face that would work. So
Yep,
this ghost, yep, I figured it did look familiar. So if I ungroup this, I don't want to use this part of the ghost, although that would be cute, but I'm sure that, Reen, that was probably because of those sharp points, the reason you didn't use that one. Is that correct?
Right. Yes.
So there's her face. If I just click up here, I've got my complex fill, and then we can just put that right over the front of the ghost face. So pretty easy, right? Now we need our block, right? It is that easy. And so let's make the block. Now, if I was going to do this from scratch, I would have made my block first, but I just wanted to show you guys the chenille part and how easy it was. So I'm going to make my 9 by 9 rectangle. And then I'm going to center that, and then I can select my ghost, make sure that that's also center origin there. And I'm going to create an outline around my ghost so that we created quilting here, and we wanted to make sure that the quilting only went around the ghost here. So I'm going to create an outline, and I am going to just put it 0.01, so it's literally right up next to the ghost there. And I'm going to do rounded to smooth my corners. And now if I select that outline, if I look over here, now if I hide my ghost, just so we can see, you can see there's my outline and there's my block. If I select both of those together, you can create quilting in the background with the emboss fill pattern. So an emboss design, I'm going to click it, and I'm just going to leave it, these settings are fine, and click OK. But what the emboss design does is it fills the area between the ghost and the outline with a pattern that's going to compress the nap of a fabric to get an embossed look. So the ghost would then be full of the nap. So, and this is a large block, so that's why it's taking a few minutes to do this. But this is a really tight stitch when it comes up because it's meant to compress the nap of a fabric that is like terry cloth or even the Cuddle. I think a Cuddle would make a really good embossed design. Have you done that with Cuddle fabric yet?
Well, I've used it as a knockdown, basically. I know Dime Software has really easy ways to create knockdowns, but yeah, you want to, it's got pile. So if you're going to embroider, especially skinny letters or anything on top, you don't want to sink down, you can put a knockdown stitch behind it.
Yeah, for sure. And there it did it finally, because that's a lot of little stitches. This is a 9-inch square. So, and so what we can do to get a quilted look from this is just increase this pattern length like significantly. I'm going to do 20 and see. And actually, I think I would like it even bigger than that. So if I go up to 30, or maybe even 40 on this design, but you can see it's spacing it out, and that's going to quilt the layer behind. And if I turn back on the chenille ghost and the face there, that's really all it was to create that. And then Reen, I know you did one other step. I'm going to copy and paste my quilting here because you made that a run stitch. So I'm going to just do right mouse click and say convert to a run, and let's just make it a different color. And we're going to send that to the back, and then we're going to copy and paste and do that again. And oh, I've got a little ghost in there, so I'll probably need to break it up and just get rid of my ghost because we just want the run stitch outline here. So I'm going to click the, whoop, I deleted the wrong one. So delete it. And then, so now I'm going to copy and paste that one again. So just copy and paste, right mouse click, paste. And then I'll give it a different color so that the machine will stop. So now we've got a placement, a tack down, and then we want to move the quilting to be after that. And then it's going to do the chenille in the face. So isn't that cool? And then you just save it and head to your machine. So did I miss any of the pieces there, Reen?
Nope, that was exactly how I did it. And you don't want to skip that tack down because Cuddle is slippery. And so you want to really keep it in place. So you really need that tack down stitch.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And tape doesn't work, I found out.
Nope, tape doesn't work with Cuddle.
Because the edges, the fuzz on the edges, my tape didn't do like anything. And so, but hey, lesson learned, right? But Reen, I know you have a tip when you're working with Cuddle, even in the hoop. You said you do a lot of pinning, right? So tell us about that.
Yes, I pin the Cuddle down. So basically, like Ashley said, there is a placement and you put down your Cuddle. Now, Cuddle does have stretch and it has nap and there is pile to it. So when I did all of my blocks, I placed the stretch of the Cuddle going across the hoop. And I made sure the nap was coming down. And I did that on every piece I placed because it's very easy to get it turned around. Yeah. But then after I got it placed, I pin just with, those little flower head flat pins. And I pin in the very corners to keep everything in place as it stitches because Cuddle will want to move around on you a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I agree, like the flower head pins, they're really long. And so they're easy to get, through your layers in the hoop. So that's a really good tip. I wish that I would have done that for sure, but I managed to not mess it up too bad. So we do have a couple of questions that popped up, so let's address those before, and then I'll show the cutting the Cuddle, or not the Cuddle, but the cutting under my camera, and then I do have the video of that block stitching out there. And so Sandra said, how big are the blocks? And so 9-inch for the finish size, but then because it's stitched 9-inch, Reen, I'm assuming since you pieced it together, you cut
Right.
a certain distance outside of there. So what's your do you do a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch or?
I do 1/4 inch. So
Okay.
when I created the blocks, I, like you did, I used a 9-inch block. Then when I trimmed the finished blocks, I trimmed a 1/4 inch past that, tack down stitch.
Right.
I ended up, random 9-inch blocks. I could have made them any size I wanted, but I made them 9-inch.
Yeah.
And I put 5 across and 6 down. And then when I did that, I had a print. Cuddle does come in prints. So I used this cute little Halloween print. And then I picked 5 coordinating solids. And so out of those 30 blocks that make up the quilt, I used 15 of the printed blocks. Right. I used 5 of just the solid color chenille.
Love that.
1 for every color because I use 5 coordinating colors to go with that print. And then the other 10 blocks, they were blocks that had, the Halloween graphic in it. And I made 2 blocks of every color. So like out of the green, I did the haunted house and, well, offhand, I can't remember what the other green was, but then there was a green solid. So that's how I ended up getting, my 30 blocks. These are probably going to go to my grandsons.
Yeah.
They don't need, a big, huge blanket. But
for sure.
And
I don't need a big, huge blanket either, Reen. And I was going to say when we're done, you could just send it to me. But I think Dalu here, she is already ready to place her order, I think, for the quilt as well.
These were a labor of love for my grandkids.
Absolutely. Yeah, I did just a couple of blocks, and I was thinking as I was doing it, because, I know you had the whole quilt, but I was thinking even then, oh my goodness, I can't believe she made it. And you kept going, Reen, because you didn't stop after the quilt. What happened after the quilt?
Well, then I made a pillow. Here's my matching pillow that I made. I love it. And, with all of the different artwork features in the Dime software. Just think of all the holidays you could do. It's not just Halloween. There's artwork in there for Christmas. There's, fall, there's spring, I mean, you could do so many things with, just what is inside of the software.
Yeah, I love that. And Chris Kavanaugh said she's not big on Halloween, or she or he, I don't, but they're not big on Halloween, but that it was cute. And so I agree. It doesn't even have to be Halloween. It could be, just fall. You could remove the jack-o'-lantern face and have the pumpkin, and you had a fall leaf on there, too, on your set. And so, yeah, it could be a fall or, Christmas or Hanukkah or, whatever, a birthday. How about a birthday quilt that just has like gift boxes and balloons? Wouldn't that be cool, right?
You could just take the leaf artwork that is built into the software, just do a whole bunch of different leaves.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, that's true. Different colors. I love that. Great idea. Very, very true. So, and so now that we've seen that, I was just looking to see if we've got other questions here. So, Dina said, is your square outline still artwork? So the square, I started with artwork, and as soon as I click the chenille shape, it converts it to the steps for chenille. And if you're referring to the one that was around the ghost, Dina, as soon as I turn that into the embossing fill so that I could make it look like quilting, it then would convert it. So I started with artwork, but it doesn't stay artwork after you click on your option in the software. So, and then Dalu said, where's that print from that Cuddle? Where's that Cuddle print from?
The Cuddle comes from Shannon Fabrics. The Halloween one, this one happens to be called Oh My Gourd. Isn't that cute? It's full of little gnomes and haunted houses, bats and everything. And that's why I just kind of did generic type of Halloween designs, like a witch boot, a haunted house, this is the other one I'm working on, but it's got, a moon and stars. So just any Halloween related type things,
I love that.
will go with the fabric. But, Shannon Fabrics has tons of these digital prints, for different holidays, different seasons, and all of these solids are Cuddle. It's all from Shannon Fabrics. And, Shannon Fabrics has a lot of different types of Cuddle. They've got things that they call hide and fur and, all this. But what I used here was what they call Cuddle 3. That is, it has a lower pile to it. 3 is for 3 millimeters. That's how tall it is. I really don't think that this technique would work with some of their Cuddles that are, the luxe Cuddles, which are hide, embossed, all that. It's just going to get lost in it. It's because of the fact that this is such a shorter pile that, you're going to get this look, the look that you can see, that you can really,
right. Absolutely. Out. Yeah, I absolutely love that too, for sure. So, and so then one other question, and then I'll show the video of how that stitched out, and then we'll hear more tips for how to put it all together. So, and then Mickey said the eyes embroidered after you cut the chenille, and the answer is yes. And so that, Reen, is a perfect segue. So I'll bring up my video and we'll see the entire thing stitch out. Now, of course, it's sped up because we don't have, all the time to sit here and just watch our machine stitch. So let's take a look at how that stitched out. So here I am at my machine. So remember, we created that placement stitch. So that's the first thing that stitches. And then that's where you're going to put your fabric down normally. But in this case, Reen knew she was making a quilt, so she wanted the batting. So I did the same. And then you can see my failed attempt at the tape there. It ran right over it and moved it out of the way. And so it tacks it down. And then the next thing we did was the quilting. And the quilting really does make the shape of the ghost. So it does have a placement line for the ghost, but really at this point, I knew exactly where I needed to place it. So I put one piece of the Cuddle down for the ghost. And that's where I paused and adjusted the height of my foot because I could see it pushing my fabric around there. And then after it tacks that down, this is where you put the other layers that are going to be sliced. Now, at Reen's recommendation, because this is a thicker pile of fabric, I only put 2 layers, whereas normally when I'm working with like quilting cotton or flannel, I'll put 3 layers on top. And then I just continue to stitch here. And you can kind of see how it's compressing the pile, and so I'm pushing there just to make sure that it doesn't buckle too much. Either that, or maybe I'm petting the Cuddle because it's so soft. And so then I'm at my work area here, and you just slice those channels open. Now I'm using a chenille cutter that we have that has this guide that you just run through the channels and it cuts it open, but you can use your scissors if you want to snip through those. You can also use a regular seam ripper as to slide through there. And then back at the machine, we recommend covering it no matter what kind of fabric you're using, even if it's your quilting cotton. After you cut those channels, I definitely recommend using a water soluble topper, because those layers are going to all be loose and your foot moving around there will just kind of flip them over. And because that water soluble is there, I left it and went ahead and stitched the face. Because then that's giving me a smooth surface to stitch the detail on there. And so then back at my work area here, then I just cut away all of those layers, and I'm cutting through all 3 at one time through there. Plus the water soluble topper is still on there as well. And then I just ripped it away from the center when I was all done. So I just went and dumped most of that in my trash there. And then I lint rolled and then removed and then trimmed away the excess. So isn't that just adorable, right?
It is.
I love it.
So cute.
And it really is that easy, right, Reen?
It really is, and you did a few things differently than I did. One thing, I think we're going to talk about. Oh, your video's still going. You want to?
Oh, no, that's me. That's me under there. So this is my finished ghost here. So you guys see the ghost?
It's so cute.
So yeah, go ahead, Reen. Tell us you said that a couple of things different.
Right. So a couple of things different that I did. I did not have to raise my foot any. Just my machine did fine. I didn't get any of the snow plowing where, you can kind of see the fabric moving. And I did pin. I pinned everything. And that kept everything in place. And you do have to use the water soluble. You're using that plastic film type before you do that final outline stitch. And leave it on when you cut through all the layers too, because it just, I don't know, I found it to me, it was easier to cut if I left the topper on instead of, everybody wants to pull it off, as soon as you get done, but leave it on there. And that really helps a lot.
I do agree with that. And I'm going to show this cutting of just this solid block. And I think that they'll see what you mean by that. So, because right now I've just done one of the blocks, but just to show you a different fabric and how you don't have to use the same color. So I have a white piece of base fabric here, and then the purple, green, and orange. And so I have stitched my channels. Okay. And you can see on my orange, you can see that the tack down is there. So this is the point where you would slice. And so this chenille cutter, you can see the blade goes right down, but it doesn't cut all the way through because this keeps it from slicing underneath. And then you just go through these channels. So what I do, there's a little bit of edge around here. And so I just kind of fold it back so I can get my toe of my guide under there, and then I can slice. Now, this is quilting cotton, and I'm slicing through all 3 layers. But if you're doing something thicker, like I noticed with the Cuddle, I cut 1 layer at a time. It worked better for me. And then for the flannel, sometimes the flannel is a little harder to go through too, but you just slice all these channels just like that. And now you can see how this could be a lot quicker with this chenille cutter versus if you had to snip through with your scissors. And then once you're all done and you're ready to put this back on the machine, that water soluble stabilizer that would be over the top, and I'll go do that while Reen is showing you guys some other stuff there. But when you put that water soluble over the top, all of these little edges here, it kind of gives you something to grab onto instead of just these little pieces for trimming. And so we'll see that when I come back. So now it's all cut and I'm ready to head to my machine. Now, what I did here was I layered 3 colors of fabric. Isn't that cute? I love it already, and I haven't even chenilled it. But I wanted to show you this. This is quilting cotton, but you know, most often chenille is done with flannel because it gets really soft when it frays. So I did 3 different colors of the flannel here. And so you can kind of see the variation in the color. And so I just thought that was kind of cute. And then these are just some blocks I was playing around with. So I just did the BOO here. And then that was your same pumpkin block, Reen, that has a little bit narrower channel. And then I did a wider channel here just to kind of see the difference. And then I did colored layers here. Now this was all flannel, but you don't have to do flannel. You can do quilting cotton, which is what I've got here. So I'm going to go stitch that last outline, and I'm going to put my water soluble on top before I stitch. So I will do that. And then Reen, I know that you were going to show them a tip for how you used your muslin in your hoop, right?
Right. And another little tip is when I use the Cuddle, since it is so soft, when I use that chenille cutter, I couldn't just go on the edge because all it did was bunch up. So I took my scissors and just kind of cut just a little bit in every channel. I mean, just snipped the fabric until I got to the channel and then used my cutter and just went through both layers at once. And it was fine. But when I first started making this quilt, you know, I made some practice blocks. And I started thinking, you know, if I'm going to be making, you know, a couple of big quilts like this, I am really going to go through a lot of stabilizer. So I'm going to show you how I did my blocks. And I'll just leave this laying here. But I used my 9.5 by 14 snap hoop monster, and I hooped cheap muslin. This is cheap muslin, probably a couple dollars a yard, and it worked perfectly. So when I do this, I cut big strips. I cut strips wide enough to fit my 9.5 by 14 snap hoop monster. And then I had all this at the, you know, at the end, because again, this is, it's one big long strip. I bought 3 yards. I didn't need all 3 yards, but I bought a 3-yard piece. So I took it and just rolled it up so it would be more manageable, because I was moving from my sewing machine or my embroidery machine over to my cutting table. And I just used a couple of big clips just to hold it, just to make it more manageable. The muslin did fine. I did not have to, you know, use stabilizer. You know, I would have used a, like the cutaway mesh. I would have used that, the no-show. I would have used that when I did the blocks. But since this is just muslin, when I did a block, and let me grab one here real quick. Like when I did a block that had some fill stitches in it, like the pumpkin face, the ghost, his eyes and his mouth. There were a couple other blocks that I did that had some filled areas in it. I thought that I needed, you know, a little bit something other than just the muslin. And I had a little piece of cutaway stabilizer here. As it was stitching, when it got to that point, all I did was just slide it underneath the hoop in that area that it was going to stitch those fill stitches, just to give it a little bit of, you know, just something extra to hold those stitches. And I see Paulie's asking if I pre-washed the muslin. You know, I didn't, but you certainly could. And I did not iron it. I know this looks like it was ironed. I did not iron it or put any starch or best press on it. It was wrinkled. And all I did was, after I hoop it, you know, you can pull it, and I got it nice and straight and flat in my hoop. And when I put it on my machine, I moved the design all the way up as high as it would go in my hoop. Stitched the block, unhooped it, moved my my muslin up back up to the top, and did the rest of my blocks. And that's how I did it. I'll show you this one that I'm working on now. I'm just getting these rows stitched together, and you can see Here's the muslin on the back. On the blocks that were just the printed blocks, I ironed a piece of SF 101 onto the back side of all of the printed blocks. There is no batting on these blocks. The reason I put the SF 101 on was because to control the stretch a little bit when I'm sewing it together. The only blocks that I used batting on are the blocks that have like a quilted background. The chenille blocks, like these chenille blocks, I did not use any batting on these. They were thick enough that I just didn't use any. So the only time I used batting was on a block that had quilting on it. And the reason I did that was just to keep, to give that block just a little oomph, It had quilting stitches on it, so I wanted to give it something.
And Reen, on the blocks that you used batting, did you trim the batting out of the seams, or did you just stitch through all the layers when you put your blocks together?
I just stitched through all the layers.
Okay.
No problem at all. I use a walking foot, to stitch everything together. Of course, I stitched my blocks together into rows, and then I stitch 3 rows together. Since I have 6, I stitch 3 rows together. Then I stitch the bottom 3 rows together. Then I stitch those 2 sections together. It just makes it a bit more manageable than, trying to get the whole thing, underneath the machine.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure. So yeah, I love that. I love that you have the one that you're working on that's unfinished, so everybody could see the back. And so then after that, what did you stitch in the ditch for your backing? What did you do with your backing that you put on? And I'm assuming you did the Luxe Cuddle right on the back?
Right. Yeah. I did nothing. Let me grab this finished one here with Luxe Cuddle. So Luxe, it's hard to see the black. I got something over here. Let me grab it real quick. Yeah, you can see this a little bit better. It's the same as this black, except it's a lighter color because you're not really going to be able to see the black. This is a Luxe Cuddle. This is one of theirs called Shannon Fabrics that is called hide, because it kind of looks like the hide of an animal. You have fibers that kind of go one way, then they come another way. So it just gives it that look, that kind of texture to it.
Yeah.
And I used the Luxe Cuddle on the back. Now on this one, I did put a big piece of batting is under the entire quilt. And the reason I did that is only because one grandson likes a heavy blanket. And this makes it heavier. And I just, after my top was done, I cut the piece of Cuddle for the back side, and then I bound it with the Cuddle also.
Awesome. So
this other one that I'm going to make, I'm not going to put the batting in that one.
Okay, nice. And the that actually is really, I think, nice, because I'm not a fan of having to stitch in the ditch. So I like the idea that you didn't have to do anything once you
right. I mean, it's not like saggy or anything. It stays together beautifully. Yeah, I'm not coming back and stitching through the ditch and all that.
I'm with you. We're embroiderers, right? Not sewers.
Right. And so I don't really love it. But nope.
I don't really love the sewing part either. I do it, and there are some things I enjoy, but definitely not that. So Linda Brooks said, did you raise the presser foot height? And so I did, Linda, but Reen said she didn't have to. So it may depend on your machine. It may depend on what hoop you're using. It may depend on the loft of your batting. Probably has something to do with it as well, if you're using a thicker batting than what we were doing. And so just look, mine, I could see the foot, like Reen described, snow plowing. So it was pushing against my fabric and was bunching up in front of the foot as it was trying to do the line. So that was kind of my cue to raise it just a little bit. And I just bumped it up like 2 notches, checked it, and then it was good. I didn't have to do it like, a ton. So
had you pinned the pieces of Cuddle,
it
you
probably would
may
have been
not
flatter.
have had to have raised your foot up.
Absolutely. Don't use tape. You saw that in the video. Don't use the tape. So it definitely did not hold. I thought, oh, I'll hold enough until I get done. But I definitely like the idea of pinning for sure.
Cuddle
So,
is slippery. It's going to slip around
mhm.
on you. And even when you're sewing it, like when I'm sewing all my blocks together into the quilt, I'm using a lot of clips or
Right.
pins to hold it
Right.
together as I sew it. And I think I did mention I use a walking foot
Yep.
to
When you stitch your layers together.
stitch
Yeah.
the blocks all together.
Yeah. And then Linda also asked, did you use a chenille brush? Now, I washed my flannel, but go ahead on the Cuddle, Reen. I think I know the answer, but I'll let you answer that.
No, I did not use a brush.
Chenille.
One reason I thought it would kind of maybe tear up the Cuddle a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't need a wire brush. I took my hand, my nails, and just kind of scratched after I cut the channels, just kind of scratch it up a little bit, keep a little vacuum next to you, clean up all the little Cuddle dust, and
Right.
I didn't have any problem at all.
Love that. Love
There's
that.
not going to be a problem washing it um, because, of course, the fabric is washable, the batting's washable, everything is
Right.
washable. Um, and once it's done, with its little Cuddle dusting, then it's done. It's not going to continue
It
to do
doesn't
it.
keep fraying. Right,
Right.
exactly. Yeah, it's not like our woven fabrics that will fray. But yes, the whenever you cut it, it's really what your stitches are kind of compress that, and then when you slice it, it just really kind of lifts up, and that fuzzy soft fibers really just kind of lift, and
Right.
so of the Cuddle. So it definitely is a unique look. And then Laura said, where'd the ghost design come from? So Laura, that the ghost that I did on the screen was from the Special FX software. It's one of the built-in frames. I think that same shape may be in Cut and Stitch if you have that program too. But it was a shape that was built into the SFX software. And then I think you had two ghosts on yours, Reen. Was your other ghost an
So,
artwork that you already
yeah,
had?
the
Or
other ghost, let me see, he's right here. So, if I can hold this up here. So, this ghost was other artwork that I had purchased, and you can bring artwork into the special effects program, and
love that.
that's where this ghost came from.
Cute.
Uh, the other ghost, he's right here. This is the one that's built in. And like Ashley said when she was showing the software, I did kind of fatten his arms up a little bit just because when you're working with this Cuddle, and again, there's multiple layers because you've got a base layer, then two other layers, to create the chenille. You really don't want some little tiny skinny area. It doesn't look good because the Cuddle doesn't have enough room to really, bloom up like Ashley was just talking
Yeah.
about. So I did just click on the ghost. You can click the point edit tool, edit the little nodes, and all I did was just kind of fatten his
Bring 'em
arms up
out.
a little bit, just
Yeah.
pull those nodes
Super neat.
out. Um, the boo, that was just lettering. You can bring lettering, true type fonts into
Yeah.
special effects
As well.
software. And that's how I did that. Some of these blocks, let me find one that has more than, okay, the house is a good one to talk about. He's got two layers to him. He's got the chenille of the windows, which I did first, then the chenille of the house, which, comes after that. And then, the bat, it's in special effects software. Click on it, turn it to complex fill. He's done. He's
Yeah.
stitched out. But, a couple of the blocks, you got to kind of think about them a little bit like the witch hat. So when I did this one, we turn it around. Again, two sections. I got the hat and the hat band. I did the hat first with the chenille, then the band, because that kind of, brings the band into the foreground. And,
Mhm.
kind of, I,
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter, but that's how my brain thinks,
Right. And
that
I
the hat
I
should be done first, then the
yeah.
band comes next.
And I think they probably definitely understand that, Reen, because it's like how our embroidery designs work. You know, they stitch in layers because some things are stitched on top of the others. And if you haven't ever done two colors of chenille, the pumpkin design that Reen showed is a really easy one to start with because the stem is completely separate. So then you don't, get that whole idea built in. And really, you could have stitched the pumpkin or the stem first in this instance because they're kind of separated here
Right.
from that example.
And
So,
the same thing with the mushroom that I did.
oh, that's so
This
cute.
is under the food category, and it is all one piece.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't want to
Oh,
do it all in one piece. So what I did was brought it in and again used that point edit, the node edit tool. And basically, I deleted all of this away from it, saved this top piece because then I had a top piece and I made it just kind of
love it.
straight. And
Yeah.
then brought it back in again and did the same thing where I deleted all these
Remove
things.
those.
And so I had two separate pieces. And then that way, I think it made it kind of look cuter because I could have a stem and then the top of the mushroom and,
Yeah.
do them in different
Directions. Yeah. And
directions and stuff. And just
right. And
give
I
it a
do
little
love
bit
that.
of a different look to it instead of just all one.
For
Um,
sure. Yeah,
idea.
for sure. So I'm going to head it back under my camera and then show that water soluble stabilizer and then trimming away this excess. And so I just went over when Reen was telling you about, her quilt there, and I just finished that run stitch around the edge. And so this is what Reen was talking about. So leaving this on, this was actually a great tip that Reen told me, because a lot of times I would do, I just rip this away. But all these little pieces here, because they're cut, then you're just holding these individual pieces. But this actually kind of gave me something to hold on to, and I could just cut through all the layers here. And in this case, I'm cutting through all, and then fortunately this is just a sample because I just snipped my stitches there. So don't do that. But you're just cutting away all of that you cut. So just like you would do applique where you're cutting it away from the edges here. So just like that. And then you go all the way around. And on my example that I made, the other option here, so let me rip that away, cut that away. So you're just cutting all those parts away there. But like on this example here, trimming around your applique pieces, because this is all frayed, I can't lie, I wasn't super particular about getting it really, really close because it's all gonna be a frayed edge when you're all done with your project anyway. So, so you don't have to be super tedious. But then after you're done with this, and so I won't make you watch all the trimming, I'll just rip away this part. When you wash this, it will start to fray, but you can also use a brush like our fray brush here and scrub the edges, and then it will start to that fraying process, which is what creates that really soft chenille texture. And when you're stitching chenille, the other tip that I can give you, when you're working with a woven fabric, you want the stitching, the lines, to be along the bias, which is the stretchy part of your woven fabric. So stitch along the bias because the bias is the least amount of fray, and that means your fabric won't disintegrate. If you stitch the same grain as the cross grain or the lengthwise grain, you'll lose big long strings, and your little strips here will get a little bit thinner because you're actually losing the fibers. Whereas the least amount of fray on the bias is going to mean that you've got still a lot of fabric left. And I'll just lift this up so you can kind of see that it's starting to fray. And then when you wash this, it will get even more texture to it as well. And you can kind of see I did the same 3 colors that I did in my flannel just to kind of give it a different look. So you don't have to use the same color. This is the same color layered up, and this is 3 different colors layered on top of that. So, and that is how easy it is to do chenille. So really, really simple and really fun. So Reen, anything else that you want to mention?
I got to try those 3 colors, using more than one color.
Oh, for sure. It does make a really cool effect, especially if you do like ombre selection, like if you do a light to dark of a pink or a purple or something, it's really awesome that way too. Makes a really cool look. So, and then we do have a couple of questions. So we'll start with Ann Philbeck and tell us, Reen, is Cuddle, is it minky? Is it just the same thing? So tell us about that.
So Cuddle is manufactured by Shannon Fabrics. It is minky, but you'll tell a big difference between Shannon Fabrics Cuddle minky and the kind that you get at the big box store. To me, it's the hand of it. It's superior. The quality is better. I think that's why on a lot of these designs, I just got that really nice bloom from it. I did not use different Cuddle, I'm sorry, different minky, like from, a big box store. I'm sure it would work, but I don't know if you're going to get this exact look that I got, the just the way that it just blooms up the texture, there are tons of colors of Shannon Fabric Cuddle. Again, I use Cuddle 3, which is, the lower pile. The 3 stands for the 3mm.
Yeah, for sure. And then Cora asked, she said, sorry if this was asked, but for the chenille, do you use scissors or chenille cutter? And Cora, you can use either. It's really, the tools that you have. And then I did notice that Chris, thank you for answering, Chris. Chris said she personally thinks it's easier with the cutter. And I do think it's quicker for sure, because you just put it in the groove and you just go to town. Whereas, for your scissors, you're sitting here snipping down an entire row. And so on your Cuddle, Reen, did you use a chenille style cutter, or did you use scissors for yours?
I used the chenille style cutter. It's soft. I don't really think that, I don't know, using scissors, it would have taken forever to use scissors. And a seam ripper, I don't know how that would have worked. It just seems like,
I don't think on the Cuddle it would have been great, but I made a boo-boo, and I had to use it on my my O, because I accidentally stitched an outline before I stitched my channel. So it was closed up. I couldn't get my cutter in there. And so I just slipped my seam ripper in there to get it going. And on the flannel, because it's a woven, it just like kind of sliced through. I feel like I could have kept going, but you risk cutting through too many layers that way. And so that's the bad thing about my seam ripper, because the tip of it would sometimes grab my base fabric and I could tell that it was kind of stopping. So then I would have to stop and make sure that I was only getting the layers that I wanted. So not the best method for sure. Maybe if I'd have flipped it upside down, that would have been smart. If I'd have put the ball down.
And you mentioned with the woven fabric that you're, putting the fabric on the bias.
Right.
On all of my blocks, my stretch is going across, and the nap is going down. To have put all of mine, on a bias, with the stretch, I think I would have wasted so much Cuddle doing that. That's why everything, I just decided stretch is going across, and the different degrees of the channels, 45, 135, the wave, that kind of, I think, gives a little bit of a different look with the Cuddle too.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
What you do, it gives it, just a little bit of a different look, but stretch went across on all of my blocks.
Yeah. And it's really because Cuddle is a knit. It's not going to keep fraying, because knits don't fray like wovens do. So on your woven fabrics, it's best to do it on the bias. And if you don't stitch it on the bias, then you'll know and you'll see it. And it's not that it won't look great and maybe it'll be fine. I just think over time you'll lose so many fibers that it'll be really skinny. So, and then Reen, Dina said, what speed did you stitch at? Now, because I embroider, a ton for work, I'm a pedal to the metal kind of girl on my embroidery machine. I did not slow it down. I went at max speed, but I always do that. Now, Reen, what about you? Did you slow your machine down at all when you were stitching? doing, or what's your
I
favorite
didn't
speed?
slow it down, but I don't run my machine at the top speed. I run mine around 800 stitches a minute. That's
Oh
just
gosh,
what I
Reen, you could
do.
get 200 more things done if you bump it up to
Yeah.
1050.
Yeah, I really need to be doing that, I think. But that's just where
Yeah.
I keep my machine at. And, you don't have to slow it down because of,
Yeah, the
stitching the
fabric, I think.
channels or because you're using Cuddle. I didn't.
Right, for sure, for sure. And really, our machine doesn't stitch like 1,050 minutes per minute all the time. If you've ever watched your design stitch out, you'll notice that whenever it's doing wide satins, it's going slower because it's got to jump, and then longer run stitches slows it down. So even though you have it set at the 1050, it doesn't go that speed all of the
Right.
time, for sure. So, but
And
yeah,
really
I think the point is you really whatever speed they're comfortable at, they don't have to change it for doing this technique. So,
right. And the chenille designs really, they don't take that long to stitch. I
no,
mean,
I
I
agree.
think my longest one, and it was probably the house, took 20 minutes. So,
Yeah, and it's like a big applique. So you
right.
know it's minimal stitching. And then Roy said keep it at 800. So he's going to lecture me when we're done today. Roy, I got too much to do. I can't be stitching at 800 stitches a minute. I got to get going. So we did have another question too, though. I was going back and looking. So Laura Parks asked if Shannon Fabrics has a website. So Reen, do you want to talk about how if somebody does want something Cuddle, they don't get it direct from Shannon, right? It's
Right.
a Shannon retailer. Is that correct?
Right. You can go to shannonfabrics.com and look at all of their Cuddle. See all the different styles they have, the different textures that comes in, the different colors, the different prints, and everything that they have. But they are a distributor. So unless you have a wholesale account, you can't buy off their website. But lots of local quilt shops carry Cuddle. Many online vendors have Cuddle.
Right.
That's I get a lot of mine through online vendors. I will say this. Truth be told, I am a
Cuddle.
Shannon Fabrics brand ambassador, so I do get Cuddle. But when I order Cuddle, I order it online
Yeah,
from
for
various
sure.
vendors.
Yeah, good, very good point. And then Harridan Palmer says she has a Viking machine. So what setting would beat 800? So really, so what we're talking about here, the machine that Rena and I stitch on is similar, and our speed goes from like 300 up to 1,050 per minute, Harridan. And so really an 800 area would be kind of, what, 2/3 of your highest speed. And I know you probably have a toggle switch on your Viking, but just kind of taking it, a little bit off of the highest speed is really it. And then this is another good question too before we finish up, Reen, is about the needle size. So did you use a particular needle size, and was it your regular embroidery needle?
To do all the embroidery, I used a 7511
Yeah,
regular, needle, a sharp needle. I didn't use a ballpoint just because it's a knit. I still used a sharp needle.
point.
When
Yeah.
I'm sewing it together, I will use a stretch needle. A lot of times they recommend Shannon Fabrics website and their blog that has tons of tutorials about working with Cuddle will recommend using a 9014 stretch
Right.
needle. I kind of keep it at an
80.
8012,
Right.
stretch. And I did that with this because, some of these, if you look at the back where, I was stitching them together, it's a little bit thicker, my
Right.
seams, because I do have I got the muslin, some have batting in them. Then you got, your 3 layers of Cuddle. So, it
Yeah,
gets a
there's a
little
lot
bit
of
thick.
layers.
Yeah. But I
Right. Yeah.
definitely use the walking foot.
Good tip for sure. So, and then I think that's kind of all. I was looking to see if we missed any. We talked about the needle size, and then you answered. Cora was asking about the Cuddle. You answered that as well, and so I was just looking to see if I missed anything. So, and then Leah, the size of the block. So Reen's blocks for her quilt were 9-inch finished square. So we talked about that earlier as well. And so I think we covered them all. Any last things, Rain, before we go to our on the house design?
Can't wait.
Okay, so here, well, we'll share my presentation again. And then I just wanted to let everybody know that the entire month of October, all of our hoops are on sale. It's Monster Mash. And if you reach $75, you'll get free shipping by using the code 75 ships free. So make sure you take advantage of those specials. So the entire month of October, stock up on all your hoops. You saw Reen and I used them. It's also a great hoop to use when you're quilting Cuddle, because the magnetic hoop holds that nicely, even with that Cuddle for the quilt if you're doing quilting on your embroidery machine. So it's another great use of it as well. And you guys know us here at Dime, every Thursday, Eileen announces a free design, and it is called our On the House design because, hey, it's on the house. So let's take a look at some of the things that you guys have been stitching and sharing them on our social media using these hashtags Dime Sew Along, hashtag On the House, and hashtag Exquisite Thread. So let's take a look at the projects that you guys have been stitching with your On the House designs. How cute are some of those projects? So many fun things that everybody's making. And we're sticking with our fall theme here. This is the design for this week, this cute little pumpkin basket for fall. Isn't that beautiful, Reen? What are you going to put that on? I know you'll be stitching it.
Oh, just all kinds of things. Immediately off the top of my head, table linens.
Yes.
I love all those beautiful colors.
Yeah, for fall, that is a really great. And I love stitching these designs just on hand towels to be able to switch out for the fall as well. So really cute. And as you guys know, the On the House designs, they are free to all of you. Go to our website, dzgns.com, and you can download it. And we always supply you with the exact colors that were used in the design. So if you love that look, you can produce them with these exquisite thread colors here. So make sure you check out your exquisite thread color dealer if you don't have those colors. So visit your local Dime dealer and pick up those colors. So, and next week, Eileen will be back. And I know, as always, she has something extremely fun planned for everyone. So you'll see her back here next week. And then 2 weeks, I'll probably see you guys again. And so just a reminder that don't forget to get your hoops while they're on special. And then before we go, Reen, I wanted to say thank you so much for sharing the screen with me and sharing your amazing project with all of our fans and followers out there. I think they loved it. So thank you so much.
Oh, thanks. And thanks for your help with kind of figuring it all out and everything too.
It's a team effort, right?
It is.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining. And so we'll let you guys know. And so we'll say bye for now. Thank you guys for being here.
Bye, everyone.